before I introduce John, I just want to set a little idea in your head today about the lens that you need to be thinking about, like the lens that you're looking through this presentation at. And that question is, when was the last time you thought about why your customers or clients bought from you? And so everything you're going to hear today from John, I want you to put it through that filter and make it, and think really deeply about why your customers and clients really buy from you, and come at it from that perspective. So anyway, without sort of further ado, I'd like to introduce you to John Attridge. John is the CEO of BBX UK. I would think I would be right in saying John has about 4 decades experience in business, life, sales, from starting off on the Gold Coast with a leasing car business to running new business development teams at Microsoft, where he was running a team of 500 people. So John is, as I said in the email, I think he's an encyclopedia in all things to do with sales and selling. And I know he's going to be sharing some of his greatest insights with you today. So yeah, please welcome John Attridge.
Thank you, Alex, and welcome everybody here. I'll try and keep to the point. We've allocated about 45 minutes today. So hopefully by the end of that time, you will have taken away. My aim for today is for you to take away something, 1 point at least, that you can then implement immediately into your business and have a benefit and an impact. So this is not going to be in any theory. The stuff that I'm going to share with you today, I've learnt over many years of actually doing it. So it's not stuff that you're going to get out of a book or whatnot. These are my stuff. Probably none of it's absolutely original. I've picked up bits and pieces from various things that I've done, and I've then implemented them on a trial and error basis into various businesses. So if I can just share some of those. So a little bit of background with me. As Alex said, I started actually with MLC Life, which is Australia's second largest life office, when I very first left university, and spent about a decade just over with them before I got into a car rental business. And a bit like COVID. So we went through World Expo in Brisbane in 1988, where we had more than 100% occupancy over a 10-month period, the 6 months of the expo and the 2 months in the shoulder side at the beginning and at the end, where people came and rented cars off me on the Gold Coast, Brisbane and Sunshine Coast. And we had more than 100% occupancy in that whole 10-month period. It was like a dream business. The faster you could clean a car, the faster it went out. And I had even overlap where someone brought it back a bit early and the next person was already out and gone, and paid. So some hours were sold twice. So when my father, who had retired as a dairy farmer, milking cows at 5 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the afternoon for 20 years, came and saw what we're doing, he just shook his head and said, "This is just too easy. It's not fair." Fast forward a year, and we went into 1989 and went through a pilot's dispute, a little bit like COVID. You couldn't see this coming. So my clientele, the motivation for my customers, were jumping off a plane and they needed to get from A to B in a better way than walking. So I understood that. It was fairly obvious from that point of view. But during the pilot's dispute, there was nobody renting after about a 2 or 3 week period, no one renting cars. So I had a big issue, which is where to park unrented cars. And so we went through a period there where I got together with 50 initial business owners of all shapes and sizes and formed a community that is that same in that community today. So 31 years later, and it's grown from 50 in the group to about 480,000 in 32 countries. So I think I know a little bit about acquisition of customers. I'm going to be in a little bit of a different field, and I'm going to give a couple of options today because I've dealt with customers in both physical product sales as well as service sales. I'm guessing that 80% of the people on this call today will be in a service-related business. I can see a few shaking their heads up and down, nodding, because that's pretty much a reflection of the business community here in the UK. So some of the motivations peer customer to customer, because that's where you're delivering a service to. Others are a little bit more strategic because you are selling a product of some kind, and that has a little bit of a different motivation than those that are offering services. So we're going to cover a few different types and a couple of different categories. I've tried to put it in this is the first time I've actually delivered this as a compact of motivations. And so if anybody gets lost along the way, as I say, the recording is there to come back and view later. But I'm going to be talking about motivations. I'm going to be talking about personas, and I'm going to be talking about marketing and sales and how you weave all those four things together to get new customers.
So from conversations we've had, and obviously it's the title of the presentation today is, you've talked about the 5 main buying motivations. So I think that would be a great place to kick off, sharing what in your view are the 5 key buying motivations that people really need to get their heads around, and perhaps, just share some stories and maybe a couple of case studies around each of those.
Yeah, so this is very scientifically put on a number of books, starting back with Sigmund Freud. So it has its roots in many, many years ago in pretty proven technology. But it'd be interesting to see if Sigmund had the internet today and what he'd make of that with the various changes that have happened. So in essence, cutting to the chase, there are 5 buying motivations, and they escalate in impact in the following order. The lowest form of buying motivation is curiosity, followed by future pleasure, followed by current pleasure, followed by fear, and the ultimate is pain. So I'll be covering those in more detail. So curiosity, future pleasure, current pleasure, fear, and then pain. And there's a couple of little examples of that. I worked with a dental chain. So this was a chain of dentists, and they were trying to get various new products out into the marketplace. And they were testing things like leaflets, emails, and various other methods of communication. So they were trying to write these in a way that that got the best impact. And it was an interesting survey. So if you look at the various products of a dentist, we've all been to the dentist. And so when the dentist normally sent their email out, it just said, hey, we're the dentist. Here we are in XYZville. We've got, lovely people, and we got clean dental surgery and all the other sort of stuff that you see on a lot of flyers. And I'm just picking on this dentist. We've all seen pretty flyers, haven't we? Anybody nodding? Yeah, still a few people with us. And it was all about the dentist. And when I saw it, I thought, who cares? I'm the patient. So the first thing is, if we write our marketing material in the eyes of the customer and then view what's going to motivate them. So to start, and this is a little bit backwards, and I'm going to come down to what motivates them and how you can measure it later in this presentation. So I have to do this bit first so that you understand it, and then you can apply it to your own customer. So the dentist that went off and simply said, I've got new toothbrushes, I've got new brushes, and they brush your teeth twice as fast as a normal toothbrush. These are electric toothbrushes. So we sent out all the emails. And out of that, and I know you can't talk back to me at this point of view at time, but we got a 2 to 3% response of the leaflets that went out to people coming back inquiring about the toothbrushes. So we thought, that's okay. And normal people that do, you call it probably junk mail here, interesting mail, snail mail, whatever the variant is, but that's a pretty average result because you're only focusing on a curious aspect to buying motivation. It's no different to getting a sandwich board, standing down in Bournemouth Town Square and put buy my stuff on the both sides of it, and giving out leaflets to everybody walking past saying, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. If you gave out 100 leaflets, you'd probably get 2 or 3 people that might be interested in buying your stuff. But there's been no focus on the motivation as to why they should take action. If that's increased a little bit and to contain content on this leaflet or email that says, after using our dental services, we guarantee that within 3 months, you will have whiter teeth and better breath. Now, think what that has added to the mix. So we've now added a little bit of emotion. So the emotion around whiter teeth is perhaps vanity. The better breath is more socially acceptable. But all of a sudden, this is not now, this is in the future. Guess what impact that has on the impact of the leaflet? Instead of a 2 to 3% response rate, it's going to lift to 7 to 8% because we've ratcheted up the emotion within the offer. Am I making sense so far? Anybody nodding? Okay. So with our dentist, if we then took that another notch up and said something along the lines that you can go out right now with our new product and be able to confidently portray yourself with white teeth, come in and have one little session and it'll clean your breath up at the same time, but you can do it now, you don't have to wait 3 months, then again, the take-up rate will come up to about 11 to 12% into current pleasure. So 2 to 3% in curiosity, 7 to 8% when we got a future pleasure thing in mind. When we make it current pleasure, that's an 11 to 12% statistic. But here's where the key is. If we went out and said to people that the statistically, what is the most popular day to get a toothache? And I've done this, and the respondents, whether it's right or whether it's wrong, the majority of respondents come back and say it's Friday. Now, the reason it's Friday in your mind and not Friday on your mind, I'm not doing songs today, is that people imagine that toothache is not a very pleasant experience. And when would the worst possible scenario to have a toothache is? And it's on a Friday. Because why? Because the dentist's closed over the weekend and you know you've got 2 days of agony coming ahead up until Monday if you're lucky enough to get an appointment when the dentist opens again on Monday. So we're now moving into a fearful situation. So people are imagining when they get toothache, oh my God, yeah, it's always on a Friday and it's always 2 days of pain before I can get to that on Monday. So when we moved the positioning of the emails and the leaflets to presenting that story and recreating that story in people's minds, guess what happened to the response rate? At that point, it massively increased up to about 38%. Now, finally, in the dentist example, if you've got a person with toothache, then they've got absolute pain right now. It's not fear of pain, but they're in pain right now. And so you can't create toothache with people, but I guess there's a few dentists that would like to. But when people actually have a toothache, then they take immediate action, and that then jumps up to like 60%. But even some suffer it for whatever reason. So there's an example of how positioning with a dental chain that I've worked with, they were able to increase their response rate by 10-fold compared to where they started. You're spending the same money on the same email campaign, spending the same money on a leaflet campaign, but getting a 10-fold, it was almost 11-fold response rate back up on that. So that's an example there, Alex.
That's interesting, John. I mean, I'm aware of the kind of whole pain motivation. I mean, from a marketing perspective, that's what we call the bleeding neck. You know, you want, you know, people that have got a bleeding neck, because, you know, until people are really in pain, they're not really ready to buy. They're not really hot prospects. So, and what about the personas of customers then? The different personas. Where does that come into that mix?
Yeah. So that's the next step in the little jigsaw. And a lot of people, particularly in smaller to medium-sized businesses, Alex, I know you talk about product-based entrepreneurs and sales-based entrepreneurs. And I'm guessing on the call, if we had 100 people on the call or 50 people on the call today, there's going to be probably 3 or 4 sales entrepreneurs, and there's going to be the vast majority of product-based entrepreneurs. So you're either a great counsellor, or you're a great painter, or you're a great widget maker, or a great retailer, or a great restaurateur, and you love cooking food, but you're not so great at some of the other aspects of running the business. And most scalable businesses are run by a sales-based entrepreneur. So if you're not one, you need to either get involved with one or outsource some of those services to that sort of person. So the first thing any sales entrepreneur looks at is the persona of the customer. So what does a great customer look like? Would be a question that I'd ask yourself. I don't know all the answers. Everybody's different. So what does a great customer look like for you? And by great, you know, you can include all sorts of things. Do they pay you? How much do they pay you? How often do they pay you? So there's many questions you can ask yourself about what a great customer means like for you. You might be in a business where I was speaking to a printer yesterday, and Brian will probably smile at this, and this printer probably only needs 30 customers. So he's in a position where if he puts on 3 customers a year, you know, and growing his business by 10, 15%, he's going to be delighted. Now, I do that in an hour. So for my business, if I'm not getting 3 customers an hour new to me, then I'm going backwards, and we'll cover that in the dipping curve later on. So everybody's different. So you need to know how many customers is an ideal scenario for you, what they look like, where are they, what little traits do they have in terms of persona. And let me just give you a couple of examples of that. So everybody hopefully understands that knowing your ideal customer profile has to include what motivates them, not just where they are, but what makes them come to you. And most people, if you're having an offer of some kind, most people will gravitate away from pain, like I used in the dental example. So the vast majority of people will do anything to avoid pain. But a great percentage of people will also gravitate towards pleasure. So getting back to my dental example, if you've got a toothache, you want to go and see that local dentist that you've seen the flyer, and so that straight away it's in your mind. If you wanted cleaner teeth or you wanted better breath, then that's a pleasurable experience. And therefore, again, the marketing will come out to those people. But people will try and get away from pain at a bigger rate than gravitating to pleasure. So let's look at a couple of examples. So if you look at financial gain, which is a persona, some people are out there for financial gain. And if you look at the way Bitcoin has been marketed out in the place, and I'm not an advocate of it, I do hold Bitcoin. For those that are interested, I think it's a good thing, but I'm not here to debate that today. But people will come and buy Bitcoin purely because they've seen what? It go up in price. Yes, it's come down, but it's gone up in price. And I'll talk a minute in about adoption and that sort of stuff. But you know, that is one motivator, is financial gain for people. So if you're offering a service that offers financial gain to some people, and that's an important segment in your persona, then please include that in your message. How do you do something that will give me financial gain? That will be a strong additive to my persona message. The next one is the fear of loss. And one of the better examples, and again, I'm not promoting or endorsing any of these products, but using as an example, DFS. So DFS home stores always have a sale on, and it always finishes Monday. And you have to dive in, otherwise it'll never happen again till Tuesday. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the message that ended up with DFS. They always became the always having a sale people. But when they started the process, taking away someone having a fear of loss, if you don't do something by a certain time, you will miss out, is a buying persona, if that makes sense. The next example that I know of is comfort or convenience. And, if you can provide a service or you're selling a product that provides comfort for people or sees as service, then that's another step in the motivation process. And one of the best examples of that, I know I hate this company, I really do, because I'm a buy British person, definitely now since we've Brexited. Whether you like that or not, that's not my place today. But we should be buying British. That should be the main motivator. So, but what does Amazon do? Amazon make it incredibly easy to buy from. You order today, they deliver it tomorrow. It always gets here. For some reason, it's always in a massive package that's 28 times bigger than what's needed, but that's another story. So there's an example of providing something that makes it so easy for your customer to buy. So what is it that you can do in your business that stops putting all the hurdles in way of buying from you? And there can be 1,000 different things. That could be probably a different session, Alex, just all by itself. But we're not going to do that today. I'm trying to give you a whistle stop today, and then we can revisit some of the other stuff. Now, the next persona motive is security and protection. So you only have to look at people that provide, internet security. Come and buy my security and you won't get hacked. Come on my Zoom call and I've got this new thing that stops the people coming in invading your Zoom room. There's a whole list of different things that are based around that. But the COVID jab is a great topical example of that. So, comfort and security. Some people will go and get a COVID jab because the marketing's been put that way for comfort and security. And in some people's minds, rightly or wrongly, and again, I'm not promoting this either way, but the COVID jab message is playing on the persona for comfort and security and wellness as part of that. And that's why, 15 million people have gone and had it because of the marketing message that's gone out on that. And then the last one on persona is pride. So pride is a great example of that, I think, is Pandora. So Pandora bracelets, I've never ever got my head around why in normal times there's a queue out the door, irrespective of what Pandora shop you go to anywhere in the world. They don't do a lot of advertising. You never see them on TV, but they've brought this pride of ownership into their buying personas. And so when someone wears a Pandora bracelet, and I guess, you could look at Rolex and people like that, they're playing on the fact that people take pride and show their friends the ownership of that. So they're all the things, Alex, that all pile into personas.
Cool. You mentioned previously, you talked about a dipping curve. I've not heard that expression before, John, so I'm interested to know a bit more about what that actually means.
Okay. So a dipping curve is, in simple terms, is when your new customer acquisition reaches a point where, if it's on a constant basis, attrition overtakes it. So we all bring on new customers, and if we bring on 2 customers a month, in the end of the year we'll have 24. But we all have attrition in our business, where some customers, they die, they leave us, they go to a competitor, something happens, and they don't keep to do business with us. So if we measure our attrition, and that's another thing that it's not related to buying motivations, but it is certainly to attrition rates, because you can apply the same motivation as to why someone left you as to why someone joined you. And that's, again, I see in small businesses, hardly anyone ever does exit interviews, if for want of a better term, with your customers. So when your customers leave, find out the true reason. Get an independent person to survey your customer and find out why they left you. So when you've only got 2 or 3 customers, I was on a call yesterday with a person who's only got 1 customer. So obviously they're in a different situation. If they left, everything sort of goes into a bit of panic mode. But most of us have got, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 or 100 customers. I've got directly and indirectly 480,000. So if I've got a 1 or 2% attrition rate, let's say I had 100,000 for the sake of the math, I'm losing 1,000 to 2,000 customers every single month for whatever reason. So unless I'm bringing on 1,000 to 2,000 customers every single month, the curve which started this way has started to flatten and then it starts to dip. And that's when you notice in particularly larger businesses, and I'm sorry, I've got no idea. There's a couple of people I recognise with slightly larger businesses here, and I'm talking about perhaps $1 million plus in turnover, that you get to the point where you've scaled your business, you've taken it off, it went through that initial painful barrier, 100,000, you got your customer acquisition right, and it went up and up and up, but then you've plateaued. And you've sat there for the last couple of years, leaving COVID out of that. I don't know if there's any heads nodding on that. But if you're in that situation, you're stuck at this plateau where you need to then do something with revisiting your buying motivations on how to kick that off again to avoid the dipping curve. That's what I talk about so far as that is. And the reason it's a dipping curve is that when you offer a product to somebody, particularly for the first time, is that you get the following percentages. So 2.5% of people out there that you've got the right persona to, that you've got the right message to, they will adopt you straight away. They're called the innovators. So again, if you've got your motivation right, you've got your persona right and your message right, and you want to do something about your dipping curve, appealing that way, 2.5% of the people that you've identified will adopt early. They'll be innovators and they'll want to jump in with you at the beginning. The next group is called the early adopters, and there's about 13.5% of those of the population. So they're the ones that will come along for the ride a little bit ahead of the curve because they've got faith in you, they've got faith in the product, or you've positioned it so that it will solve one of their issues. You then reach an early majority percentage of 34%, and then finally a late majority of 34%, and then the laggards of 16%. That's when the taxi driver starts telling you about something that's great, and everybody gets in, but that's on when it's on the way down again. So that's what the dipping curve does, Alex. So measuring your motivations, understanding it, put your marketing towards it, understanding your persona, and then understanding your dipping curve is part of the 3-phase matrix.
What about the emotion and logic? Because we've all heard the expression that people buy in emotion and justify with logic. So what's your thoughts on that?
100%. So, I drive a Jaguar, and when I bought about 5 in a row now, and when I first bought a Jaguar, I thought, I like the look of them, and someone said to me, I think it was Ruben who's on this call, that means you're just getting old. And I get it. That's okay. I like the style of it. But how many times when all of a sudden you've done some research, you've had a look, and you buy one, or you're getting one, and next thing you look on the road, you never saw them before. Now you see them everywhere. So you get this emotional system, and then you've got to have it now. How many times you've been into a car yard? You've done all your research. You've thought the thing through. You've investigated it on the internet, and you get into the dealership itself, and your mind tricks itself into saying that I need that now. And you're almost screaming to the salesperson, don't talk to me anymore. I just want to buy it. Does that ever happen to anybody? I can see a few people laughing. And then how many times are you engaging with people? Then for whatever reason, they start putting barriers up and putting time frames. It's just total lunacy. So, if they were tuned to the fact that people buy emotionally and then justify logically, they would have a far greater sales conversion rate. Because even if you've spent a little money, more than what you thought. The next time you run into a friend down the street, even in your mind, if you've spent too much money, what do you say to that person? It was a great deal. I got this extra service and I got this and I got that and it was fantastic. So you're justifying logically, even though your own brain says that you're perhaps a little bit extravagant in that purchase that you made. Does that make sense, Alex?
Yeah. Yeah. What about timing? Because, obviously we've chatted about timing in business quite a lot. So, you know what my thoughts are on that, but I just wondered whether you've got sort of any insights in terms of timing.
Yeah, so like the old saying, timing is everything. Anybody that's played any decent level sport, it's not how hard you hit it, it's the timing of the stroke that puts impact into the ball. Follow-up triggers. There's a lot of things with personas. If we're getting the right people, is then how to market them, because then we move into your expertise, Alex, which is what you call push selling rather than pull selling. Using
pull rather than push.
Yeah. So the most recent evidence that I have on this, and it's changing a little bit, and I'm sure it's with the internet and social media is the cause to this. Gone are the days when you just push out a leaflet and someone comes and does business with you, even if you've got the marketing message correct, you're dealing with the buying emotion correctly, you've identified the persona, you've done all that correctly. People still need social justification nowadays. It's almost like a disease that's encompassed the earth. And social proof is such a massive part in people's motivation. So and I've got no clue on how people measure it, but every piece of information that I've read on this says somewhere between 7 and 11 touches, in other words, brushes with your product, with you, your service, is required nowadays for the average non-person to become an adopter of a non-known person to become an adopter of your product or service. So that's why people go to networking events and all sorts of different things, is to get a little bit more known as you as the person, because people buy from people they know, like, and trust. I'm not telling anybody anything new there. It's this social proof, Alex, in conjunction with buying motivations, but on the understanding that you need to keep track of these people, because if you're going to touch base with them 7 to 11 times, then you've got to have some mechanism to follow that, which is my next suggestion with all this. It's all very well having all this motivation and persona, but please get yourself a CRM system of some kind. So anybody that doesn't know what a CRM system is, look it up online, CRM. You need something that keeps track of all your interactions with your persona-based people. That could be a whole new story. There's plenty of CRMs. We use Zoho at BBX, and I find that a pretty decent platform. But there's sort of CRMs on things like LinkedIn. There's ways of using that in a CRM type function. There's plenty of bespoke ones, and you can get one made. But I'm certainly
Pipedrive is a good one.
So
for small business, I think Pipedrive's good.
Yeah,
John, one of my motivations for pushing you into doing this presentation today was the restaurant story, because I think that's such a great story, and it kind of perfectly captures the sort of maybe the slightly unconscious factors of why people choose to buy from certain businesses or certain places. And it was that story that kind of made me interested in finding out more about your thoughts on this particular topic. And I think it's a great story. So I think you should share that, because you've kept that one up your sleeve.
Well, I've got two. In fact, they both.
I thought you probably have two.
They both involve restaurants. So I don't know if we've got any restaurateurs on here. They're probably already hiding in a cave somewhere. It's poor buggers at the moment, and I do feel sorry for them. But I worked with a chain of Indian restaurants, and this is one story. So they were known by their little pretty flower boxes outside the doors, about 6 in the chain. and they serve great food, but they never did any customer buying motivation strategies. So like most Indian restaurants and most restaurants, they always ask you how the food was by the time you've taken your first mouthful. And that's so annoying because you haven't even had a chance to taste what the food's like yet. And then that's it. So I got them to change, and we did this for 90 days. We got the waiters to ask, "Excuse me, madam, did you like the food?" Yeah. May I ask you one question? What was the motivation? What was the trigger that caused you to walk into my restaurant and dine here tonight? Simple question. What was the motivation? Why did you come in? What was the trigger, however you want to put it, that made you, your brain, say, turn left, turn right, come through my door today? Everybody with me? That's the question. Now, after 90 days, the most popular response, 28%, mostly female, said that they liked the little pretty flower boxes. So it was a visual thing. Oh, look at that little quaint little place. I can imagine my wife saying this right now. Let's go and have a look. Little pinks and reds and whatnot. That wasn't the food. Wasn't the chef. Wasn't the price. Wasn't the opening hours. Wasn't all the other things that the restaurant was thinking it was. It was the flower boxes. Guess what he was thinking of doing one summer? Taking away the flower boxes and putting out outside seating area. So when his business went down by 28% and he didn't understand the buying motivation, he would have been blaming Brexit or the weather or some other thing for the loss of business. Totally oblivious. So there's one example. Does that make sense, Alex?
Yeah.
Second one is, and this is a local one here. Anybody, I'm in Bournemouth today. Anybody in the Bournemouth and Poole area? There's a lovely little restaurant out in near the airport at Herne called the Pear on Parley. I don't know if anybody's ever been past it or whatnot. Anyway, I'm driving there a couple of summers ago, and just pre-COVID, and got my family in the car, and we see this sign says, "Under new management, try our new outdoor pizza oven." And I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I walked in, lovely driveway, nice parking, plenty of space, walked in, well greeted. I was asked if I wanted to be inside or out. It was a lovely sunny day. We went outside, come and have a look at the pizza oven. We ordered our pizzas. We had the waitress come over. How was the meal? Normal stuff. Had a great time, paid my 100 quid for the four of us for the bill. Enjoyed the thing immensely. That was the last time I've ever been back there. Now, COVID's got in the road last year to a fair degree, but why is that? 3 reasons. As I was walking out the door, I said to my wife, man, this is a great restaurant and an opportunity here, but they're making 3 fundamental flaws, errors, glaring ones. The first one is they are not asking the motivation question. What motivated me to walk in today? Now, that could have a variant of reasons, but my reason was I like to try the new pizza oven. I was probably one of the curious people to see what that pizza oven was like. So on their marketing message. So if they could have expanded on that and found out that a lot of people attracted it, you could make a bigger sign, put it in more places, whatever it happens to be. So how can you direct your marketing department if you don't know what the motivation is for people to come in and eat your food? Second thing is, they, like most restaurants, they took no details of who I am. Not one single detail. No email, no name, no nothing. Now, that then leads to the third thing. How can they give me a follow-up message to say, hey, John, I believe you were here 6 months ago. If they've got my birth month, if that's all they have to ask, and no one's going to be minding you, giving them that. John, it's June. What are you doing for your birthday this year? Come and try our new pizza oven again. We've just done this, that, and the other. Or, come and get a free bottle of wine that's worth 15 quid that cost me 3. Happy days. So that's 2 glaring examples of why people, another presentation I do is why 50% of people in business survive despite their best efforts not to, and the other half fail. And understanding that if they just understood their buying motivation, then that's a classic example, Alex, of what they could have done differently to get, I'd say, the better part of 30-35% increase in turnover without any increase in cost.
Yeah, it's interesting. Reminds me of a conversation I had last week with Peter from Survey Mechanics, and we're talking about surveying a customer base and finding, getting some feedback from them. And I think it's kind of such an underutilized aspect of marketing that, I know I fall into the same trap, is that you start off with a lot of assumptions of what you think your clients want, and all the reasons why they would buy from you and all the rest of it, without actually going out and asking them and engaging in that. And often we can be so wrong.
So that's pretty much where, I know we're getting short of time at the moment, but that's pretty much my base thoughts. I could probably do a session on all of them, Alex, but just in summary, for anybody out there that missed the core of the message, the core of the message starts, I guess, with the group of people and when they'll do business with you. So it takes 7 to 10 times before that they'll do business with you. 2.5% will be the early innovator people. Then the early adopters will be 13.5%. The majority early will come along at 34%, the late majority at 34%, and the laggards 16%. You need to understand what personas come into the mix. And so what does a great customer look like? How do you position your product so that you can get financial gain, fear of loss, comfort or convenience, security or protection, or pride? And then delivering that round, the fact that curiosity is the weakest form of motivation, followed by future pleasure, current pleasure, fear, and then pain. And if you can build all those things in that order into your marketing message, then you will do more business and you'll get away from that dipping curve issue. And that doesn't matter what size business that you are, and it'll help you scale if that's where you want to be. Or the last thing that does is, if you don't want to scale, you can get rid of bad customers. So I often talk about doing the cull, the dangling feet on the ladder. If you've got 50 customers and you don't like 5 of them, get rid of them. Because if you've got a nice strategy to get rid of 5 better customers that pay you more often, then that'll give you an increase in profit without having to do any more work. So that's pretty much me on this today. I could talk on it for hours, as you probably guessed, but I won't. So each of those could be broken up into different other little areas as well.
So thank you for that today, John. That's excellent. I know we will give you just a couple of minutes to do a quick pitch about how people can use BBX to create a marketing budget. I think that would be fair for you delivering your value today.
So I always talk about value adding rather than discounting. So anybody out there that wants to get new customers, if you're aiming at a buying motivation by discounting your price, in my belief, you're in a sinking canoe. It's just total lunacy. And if you want an example of that, look at the high street. The high street have discounted themselves out of the market almost. Amazon's come in and absolutely swooped in, and they've killed themselves as an industry by discounting. So how do you create a budget? Every one of you has spare capacity in your business. That's the ability to take on more customers without increasing fixed cost. So if you can do that, I've got a way of capturing and monetizing that spare capacity. The car rental that's sat on the driveway not going out, in my old speak, capturing it in the form of a digital trade credit to spend on a marketing budget. So the only reason you're not spending marketing money today, and everything in my body says that if you're not doing marketing right now, done correctly, but if you're not doing marketing at a rate of somewhere between 7 and 11% of your current turnover or your normal turnover, then you're missing a trick. And if you're not marketing now, when we come out of lockdown, you'll be 3-6 months behind the 8 ball in your competitors in a lag time, because the great competitors will be out there doing exactly that right now. So if you need to find a budget that you don't think you've got right now, I've got a perfect solution for that. So just inbox me and I can get one of the guys to do a measurement for you and see if we can help.
That's great. So look, we're going to wrap up now, everybody. Just want to say to everybody, thank you so much for coming along. You know, we do appreciate that, you know, this is an investment of your time. We hope you all got some value. Hope you've gone away with at least one little golden nugget from the session today, and hopefully more. We are going to be running events on an ongoing basis. So we're kind of really looking to deliver, you know, a lot of value back into the small, medium business network across the UK. So we've got a couple more dates for your diary. On Thursday the 4th, again, 11 till 12. If you're not part of the BBX network at the moment and you're interested to know a bit more about what John does and the people that are involved in that community, we're running an event called Making Money and Saving Money with BBX. And then on Thursday, the 18th of March, which is going to be the next lunch and learn session. So between 12 and 1:15, I'm going to be running a session on planning and strategy, which is all about creating and delivering the value in your business. I think, you know, strategy is one of those words that often gets misused and confused in the business community. And hopefully I'll be able to create some kind of simplicity and clarity around that for you. So there's a couple of dates for your diary, and we will be following up with everybody after the event, and just wanted to say thank you all so much for coming.